Why doesn't the left like Mr. Beast? On the surface, Mr. Beast should be someone that leftists, progressives, liberals, etc. absolutely love. He's a rich guy, seemingly giving away tons of money to people without tons of money. He's building wells, he's curing blindness, he's planting trees. All of these things are no-brainer positives when it comes to progressive or left-wing values. And yet, as time passes, he continues to draw the ire of progressives and leftists. There have been a variety of arguments that people on the left or left adjacent have made when criticizing Mr. Beast. I'm sure you've heard most of them before. He's doing poverty porn. You know, there is probably an element of truth to that. He's ultimately profiting off of this stuff. I mean, he is worth countless millions of dollars, so there's definitely some truth to that as well. I know he said he has plans to donate all of his money when he dies, so I mean, that's great. So that argument kind of feels weak to me. It sort of feels like liberals being liberals. I think it's a common misconception of the left that nobody is ever allowed to have any nice things under any circumstances, so that's not really what concerns me either. What I and others on the left don't like about Mr. Beast and his content, not including the fact that I'm an old man and the Gen Z style of editing and humor just isn't for me. Not a knock if you enjoy the actual videos themselves, because they are solid videos, well edited, engaging, etc. If you're his target audience, I see why you'd like his videos. But what I don't like is that he and the entire team around him are just so ignorant and uninformed that they don't know how to properly do a real systemic analysis of the work he's doing, or more specifically, why he has to do it at all, or worse, he or they do understand it and are willfully ignoring it entirely. This has been going on for a while, but it really came into full swing when he made his video curing 1,000 people's blindness. Leftists and progressives were frustrated that he didn't take any time to basically point out how fucked up it is that the only way that these people are now able to see is because an individual millionaire decided to allow them to see at random, when we have the means to allow anyone who needs this procedure to get it. Hassan represents this perfectly here.
You watch the video, you go, oh, how cute and how nice. I watched the video and I'm filled with rage.
What's wrong with you?
That we shut off access to a 10-minute procedure because we paywalled it and decided that like some people just simply can't get it. It is so insanely frustrating that it's up to like one YouTube guy to like decide to make content out of it that like the people who are too poor can't just fucking see. That's insane.
I love her reaction too when he says he's full of rage. She's like, what's wrong with you? Because she's the normie. I don't know who this is, but I'm guessing by her reaction, she's a normie. She is everyone on the internet baffled by the leftist and progressive reaction to Mr. Beast's apparent acts of altruism. They are interpreting what Hassan and others are saying incorrectly. We're not mad that he paid for these people's treatment. We're mad that it took Mr. Beast to fucking do it, and we're mad at Mr. Beast for not really addressing how it shouldn't be his place to do things like this. We're mad that someone with his immense amount of influence, power, and proximity to these issues doesn't take any amount of time to even mention how we can solve problems like this at the systemic level. Now, in the wake of the controversy over his curing blindness video, he did tweet this out. I don't understand why curable blindness is a thing. Why don't governments step in and help? Even if you're thinking purely from a financial standpoint, it's hard to see why they don't ROI on taxes from people being able to work again. The fact that this tweet is all we have, as close as he has ever gotten, as far as I can tell, to really trying to address this from a systemic level makes me think that his silence is intentional. This is as close as he's ever gotten. You've got Ostenox, an actual leftist, pointing out that he's finally saying something truthful, something actually materially useful to this conversation. And overall, Mr. Beast has always struck me as a sort of aloof, apolitical guy, vaguely centrist, which basically means you're going to be very charitable to reactionaries, which we will get to in a bit, which is also frustrating because when you're putting yourself on the front line of a lot of these issues in the way that he has, and you're not using your immense amount of influence and power to really move the needle on these issues, it is incredibly frustrating. Why don't governments step in and help? Well, guess what, Mr. Beast? There are plenty of people with real power trying to run for office or are running for office that you could support and endorse. Sorry if this is libbed up, certain leftists. You know who you are. Click off the video if you want, or bear with me. Supporting and endorsing progressive candidates who support progressive policies is the only way that these issues are really solved. Like with the blindness one, universal healthcare, a popular progressive policy, solves this problem. But then Mr. Beast can't make a video. Now, don't misconstrue what I'm saying here, please. I'm not trying to say that he's like intentionally ignoring the systemic realities of the issues his philanthropy serves as an utterly inefficient Band-Aid for to continue making himself and his friends tons of money. I'm actually not really saying that. If that's what's happening, then he is a terrible person, of course. It could just be ignorance. But a tweet like this existing kinda tells me a part of him knows he could be doing more to point out these issues from a systemic level, and he chooses not to. So like I pointed out, there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to why the left or progressives or liberals or whatever have issues with Mr. Beast. You've got memes like this reaching the top of r/memes, one of Reddit's largest communities. This is the reality we live in. Leftist says the rich should give their fortunes to the poor. Mr. Beast says, okay, and the leftist is inexplicably angry about this. Now, I don't know if this meme was made in good faith, if the people who upvoted it understand anything that's going on, but fuck, we on the left are not mad by the sheer fact that Mr. Beast is giving money away. This is such a fucking stupid, low-effort meme that allows any dumbass to create an imaginary speech bubble here in panel 4, but really think about what he could possibly be angry about here. God forbid we criticize the motives and tactics of a rich guy that, while yes, is doing some charitable things, is also friends with Ted Cruz and Joe Rogan, building a company town, displaying a white savior complex, aiming for a career in politics, garnering a largely right-wing audience that turn into slur-wielding, doxing attack dogs when their hero is criticized. Nobody's appalled that thousands of children now have access to clean drinking water. We're appalled that the guy in his video took approximately 0 time to address the real systemic and historic problems that result in these types of scenarios and what can actually be done to fix them. So this brings me to his most recent video where he built 100 wells in Africa. Now on the surface, again, this seems like great work. He built 100 wells, allowing thousands of people, many of whom children, to have access to safe drinking water for the first time in their lives. That is a very good thing. However, when you look at what's going on more closely, there are a number of issues. For one, I was absolutely fucking blown away by his statement here.
You would think that having an effect of this magnitude would require the resources and funding of a large government, but that's not true.
This is an unbelievable statement to me. Let me try to contextualize what Mr. Beast has done. Let's say, best case Ontario, he provided access to water to 500,000 people. This is probably a significant overestimate, but regardless, 500,000. Sounds like a lot, but actually how many people in the continent of Africa don't have access to clean drinking water? 41 million people would be an absolutely huge number if that were the real number, which it's not. The real number is 418 million people. 500 million people. That's a lot of wells. That's a lot of videos. I believe he said that he plans on donating all of the money from this video to building more wells in Africa, which again, sounds noble, but it doesn't even come close to scratching the surface of this problem. Right at the end, he asks us, the audience, most of whom are probably not in any real position to donate any real amount of money, to fucking donate money, and there's just no way you can get enough people to donate. There's not enough vague awareness that you can spread while not even really quantifying the problem for his audience, probably intentionally because it kind of makes what he did sound a lot less impressive. The idea that you can donate out of these problems is an inherently right-wing idea. It's an inherently conservative idea. It's not one that you see a lot, but it does come up often enough. It's the idea that philanthropy is a sufficient solution, a sufficient substitute for systemic change, a belief that private charity can and should take the place of comprehensive public-led solutions to societal issues. I've literally heard Ben Shapiro make this exact argument. Like when you Google Mr. Beast Philanthropy, the title for his website is Beast Philanthropy Official Site Help End Hunger. Someone needs to tell Mr. Beast, we will not end hunger this way. Short-term solutions like this certainly are a good thing and help, but you need need to also address the systemic realities. Nowhere on this website does he talk about how we can actually end the conditions that lead people to be hungry, that lead people to be homeless. And even before that, fine, fixing the systemic issues will take a lot of time, but solving world hunger is not particularly expensive, relatively speaking. According to estimates from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, an annual investment of around $267 billion is needed to achieve zero hunger by 2030. Now, this figure sounds like a lot, obviously, but the United States spends nearly $900 billion on its military alone. If we as citizens living in a democracy wanted, we could influence our government to pay for this. A fraction of the United States military budget could solve world hunger. Think of how much good we actually could do, but then we wouldn't need this. We wouldn't need Mr. Beast. Like 1.6 million individuals fed, there are 1.3 billion people who are food insecure. I'm glad that these 1.6 million people got to be fed, but this is not how we really solve this problem. And Mr. Beast does not talk about that at all. The US could solve world hunger without lifting a fucking finger. So to answer the title of this video, I don't think the left hates Mr. Beast. Not really. We're immensely frustrated by him. His unwillingness to even remotely discuss the true reality of the situations he's presenting to his viewers, or his ignorance, despite, as I said, years of proximity to these issues. Someone with his audience, his influence, his pull could truly do a lot of real good for the world. We're not mad that you built 100 wells and gave thousands of people drinking water. We're frustrated that you don't discuss the conditions that led to the hundreds of millions not having access to clean drinking water. We're frustrated that you're not discussing the real solutions to solving this issue. The solution to these problems is not one rich person making a YouTube video, as he so eloquently states here.
I know it's weird that a YouTuber has to do all this stuff, but someone's got to do it, and if no one else is, we're gonna do it.
It's like, no, hundreds of millions of people in Africa don't have access to potable water. You making this video, these donations that you're asking of your audience aren't even going to come close to really solving this issue. We don't need awareness at this point. There's nobody, even the fucking infants who watch this video, who doesn't have somewhat of a baseline understanding of the lack of access to things like food, water, and healthcare in places all over the world. Awareness isn't what we need right now. Charity isn't what we need in the long term. I mean, in the short term, great. I'm glad all of the children in this video have access to clean drinking water now. That's great. But what is Mr. Beast's plan for the other several 100 million children on this continent? Is he so naive to think that this video will somehow, convince people to donate enough money to solve this problem? That it'll convince other millionaires or billionaires to make more wells? These aren't issues individuals can solve, even millionaires and billionaires. These are structural issues that require world governments to act. Yes, in the long term, we need to end the systems that create these conditions. Hassan, or his editor, put it perfectly in the description: be mad at the system instead. And that's really what we're angry at most, is the systems. But even in the short term, we could make real change as well. This is not real change. He helped thousands when we're talking about hundreds of millions. According to a 2021 UNESCO report, getting clean, potable water to everyone in the world would cost about $114 billion annually. Mr. Beast ain't got this type of money. Billionaires are certainly not going to pool their money and resources to pay for this. The US government alone could, though. Like we just discussed, for just an eighth of what the US spends on its military alone could guarantee access to all of these hundreds of millions of children in Africa, not just the few thousand that he helped in this video, but all of them, and every other human on the rest of the planet, for just 1/8 of what the US spends on its military alone. That would be closer to how we solve this issue. Not this. As callous as it is to say, relatively speaking, this is almost as good as doing nothing, when the potential of what Mr. Beast could do is so much more. By that I mean someone with his pull, with an audience this impressionable who loves him this much, could actually influence world governments to do something real. He could galvanize young people to support the real people in our governments who want to actually use our power and weight to help these people in the short to medium term, as well well as end the cycle of capitalist economic exploitation that perpetuates these conditions in the long term. But instead, his pinned tweet for the last year and a half has been an exchange with a notable fascist, racist, transphobe. He's also subscribed to Elon Musk, someone who is, again, universally condemned by anyone not absurdly shitty. Elon Musk isn't like a haha funny meme guy anymore. He is a right-wing extremist. He is a right-wing agitator. He can't stop spreading transphobic and white supremacist agitprop on his timeline. This is who Mr. Beast associates himself with closely. He follows people like Donald Trump and fucking Rumble, CEO of Rumble. He follows people who signal boost fucking Steven Crowder. But ultimately, this is a Band-Aid solution on a wound caused by a fucking nuclear bomb. Diverting some of our money to solving this, as I described earlier, is like surgery on a gunshot wound. Which I think if that was at least what Mr. Beast advocated for, I think a lot of people on the left would be more charitable to him, no pun intended. I'm not even asking for him to come out against capitalism and advocate for a true leftist future. I just want him to at least realize that this should be solved at the systemic level, not with individual acts of philanthropy and donations. Maybe it would hurt his content, maybe the video would be more boring if he actually discussed this stuff, but in my opinion, if he actually cared about making a difference, he would be using his voice and his influence to actually influence change, but he doesn't. Plus, I really fucking hate his Uncanny Valley thumbnails, like they're really fucking off-putting to me, but that's a different story. Now, also what I'm not saying is that you can't like Mr. Beast's videos. Again, they're not really the type of stuff I watch, but I can see the appeal. They're fun, they're interesting, they're weird, they're engaging. There's something visceral about handing some rando a suitcase with $10,000 in it. But leftists, progressives, we want a future where there would never be a reason that $10,000 should have that kind of effect on someone's life. And it doesn't seem like Mr. Beast understands that or wants that, and that's what frustrates us about him and his content. Now, with that being said, I would be remiss to not mention that there have been a lot of bad takes criticizing Mr. Beast. So here's a Fox News article that cherry picks some of this stuff. Apparently, a TechCrunch article said that Mr. Beast's blindness video puts ableism, systemic ableism on display, apparently saying that Mr. Beast and his defenders easily fall into the trap of perpetuating that deeply entrenched ableist mindset. As I wrote earlier, ableism is just as pervasive as racism and sexism. A BuzzFeed article further went on to say that another huge problem, Mr. Beast's video seems to regard disability as something that needs to be resolved. I've never really liked takes like this personally. If that makes me ableist, then I don't know, so be it. There's nothing wrong with people who want to see being able to see. This is not how we should be criticizing Mr. Beast here. But I think most of this comes from liberals who are stuck at the I understand there's something off about what I'm seeing, but I don't really know enough to produce an accurate analysis of the topic stage. Most of what I see from the actual left really comes down to Mr. Beast having unspeakable amounts of real power to influence real change, and he either doesn't want that, which would truly make him a terrible person, or he, despite his immense wealth, resource, and proximity to these issues, doesn't understand the necessity of that systemic change, which would make him a fucking dumbass, which would, again, frustrate the left more than anything, and cause some pretty visceral reactions against him. And then he goes about and tweets absolutely moronic shit like this. I already know I'm gonna get canceled because I uploaded a video helping people, and to be 100% clear, I don't care. I'm always going to use my channel to help people and try to inspire my audience to do the same. It's like, no dog, you're not canceled because you uploaded a video helping people. There is no liberal, no leftist, no anyone who sees someone helping someone and goes, wow, you are a shitty person for having a good faith intention to help someone. There is always an additional element to it. Now, sometimes that element is stupid, like the idea that helping people who want to see finally see is ableism or whatever. But even then, there's an attempt to, I don't know, show empathy to a marginalized community. I don't know, but nobody is canceling you for, quote, helping people. Like, this is dumbass fucking right-wing rhetoric. Wah, I'm getting canceled. And I mean, what can I say? This fucking Elon Musk AOC account is one of those horrible, fascist, racist, bigoted shithead accounts that blew up post Elon Musk acquisition of Twitter. When he's on your side, there's a fucking problem. Seriously, this guy is a genuinely horrific piece of fucking garbage. You've got all these fucking dumbasses, even fucking Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate's fucking equally shitty brother, chirping here in the QRTs. So I don't know. I hope I shed some amount of light as to what the left is actually criticizing Mr. Beast over. There are some annoying things that fucking liberals criticize him over that I'm not really into, but there are real, genuine critiques that we can lob at this guy.